didn't come here for form or fashion. I just came to inspire you to perhaps even on this Easter Sunday to give you something to consider that maybe you hadn't thought about. Or to tell you about the goodness of the Lord, to tell you about how he gave himself and how he, in the midst of all his trials, in the midst of living and sacrificing, how he died for you and I. Because he died. But the story didn't stop there. But because he died, you and I have an entitlement that we didn't have before. Because he died, we are both sons and daughters in God. And because he died, there is nothing under the sun that can come and crash us except we allow it. Because if we find ourselves in God, no matter what comes our way, we can stand in the midst of the storm. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Consider what God has done and how he's kept you. Consider how when your days look dim and the hours seem short, that it was but by his grace and his mercy. Oh, you were standing on the edge of the cliff and life seemed to be coming to an end. Nobody cared and you didn't think God even cared. But because of the love of God, somebody spoke a word of healing to you. Somebody spoke a word that caused you to grab hold of hope. Because God lived, he used somebody. He spoke to somebody to help you stand in the midst of the storm. Because he lives. In spite of the troubles, in spite of the hard times, in spite of the incidents, the accidents, and the situations we may otherwise have been gone. But because he lives, he's given us all hope. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Amen. Oh my, let me get on here. I'm not going to try to take up all of your time. But by this very virtue of time we have, let us look to the scriptures and consider what Resurrection Sunday, what Easter Sunday is for us. Well, it's already been read, you're hearing from Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, the 28 chapters, and beginning in the first through the 10th verses, where you find the story of Jesus, and how even in that moment, having gone through the experience that took him to the cross, we get to a place, a station in his journey, where he's already been buried. The tomb has been sealed. And everybody's hope is lost who had any belief in him. But Jesus, can you say Jesus? Jesus rose in the midst of the story. But let me just give you something to think about for a moment, because when we consider what Easter is about, there's a time in which case, and I always like to tell a little story. It's been said that there was once, the Navy, how they have vessels, they have submarines, and it's said that there was a point in time when up in the area in New England, in Provincetown, and in that vicinity, in New England, that part of the East Coast, is where the Navy has a large presence, and in particularly, there's some massive submarines. And it said that one time there was a submarine that had gone off in its routine, gone off to scout about the ocean floor and to make observations and to do the things that it does in care for our nation. And on this particular occasion, there was some kind of unknown, undetermined, catastrophic incident that occurred, and there was an internal explosion in the ship, and the submarine, fell to the bottom. It submerged. The incident was even such that they didn't know whether anyone was yet living. But there was a dispatch of the rescue team by the Navy to go and to see what had happened. Go and see if there were still some others who had survived. So it said that this rescue team had gone out, and the divers had got to the place where they thought the vessel had descended, placed deep down on the ocean floor. And as they went down, they found the submarine. And as they began to wonder about it and to explore to see if in the midst of the tragedy, whether there was still life, any signs of anyone living. Didn't appear to be, but as they scoured about in their diver suits and as they began to investigate and try to determine what life might be there. Finally, almost concluding that there is no hope. As they began to be silent in the space of that moment, they began to hear some gentle tapping coming from an area that was nearby where they had stopped. And they began to listen intently. And as they did, they recognized that there were some dots and dashes like the Morse code. Tap, 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 tap. And what they understood was a message from someone, if not many others, who were inside that were trying to spell out something. And what they concluded was they had asked the question, is there any hope? Those inside captured, not knowing what lay outside beyond what they could see, probably in a dark place, wondering if those whom they recognized, who could observe from the outside, wanted to know, is there hope? Come to remind someone today, as even in our times of living in this society, in this time of cry and constant difficulty, in our own world there is a cry, is there hope? And so the Easter season, the time that we're in, the day that we stop to reflect upon is the realization that there is hope.
There is hope. Yes.
Can you just look at someone, or if there's nobody next to you, just say to yourself, yeah, there's hope. No matter how tragic life has seemed, no matter how difficult times have been, no matter how life's ups and downs have caused you to give up, there is hope. Some who live in states of what seem to be abandonment with no one that they can connect themselves to. There are those who have come through difficult marriages and difficult illnesses of time. But the question is, there hope? Oh, somebody has suffered through disease, and somebody has suffered through all kinds of other experiences that left them hopeless. But this Jesus, this risen Christ, is our hope.
Oh, yes.
And if you didn't believe he was hope, he demonstrates here in the sermon that not only what men have tried to do, but even when death has come, as human beings, we see death being the end.
Yes.
But what Jesus shows when he rises from this empty tomb, he illustrates for us that there is more to be had in need, even when your situation looks dead. Can you just say with me, there is hope?
There is hope.
So here we are in this story, and we look here, having come through this Holy Week where the Bible has presented to us the journey of Jesus. How through his experience during the course of the week, we recognize how he's gone through certain kinds of embarrassment. He's gone through experiences that even at the cross, he concluded that he's been abandoned. But that's not where Even while the Bible gives us these counts of the humanizing events that took place. Even while we come to that moment where we, on yesterday, or Friday rather, we call it Good Friday.
Yes.
We consider how he was crucified.
Yeah.
We consider how he was given unto all kinds of cruel and vicious acts in his punishment. We consider and observe how the Romans took him as a victim and stripped him. Yes. Or we look at how he was beaten 39 times and how by the virtue of what they used stripped him of his flesh. Yeah. Oh, even so to the point of embarrassment that there was no reason for others to feel that he was God's own. Can you just say with me, there it is. Oh,
there it is.
Oh, we see him at the cross, and having been up on the cross, he said, oh God, why hast thou forsaken me? Abandoned it. But that's not where the story stops. We get here in the 28th chapter. Jesus has been entombed. The rock is sealed. And it seems to be the end. And you say, there is hope.
There is hope.
This is a day of victory when Jesus rises.
That's right.
And the women come, and they come, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the other Mary, they come who happen to have been witnesses of Jesus at the cross. They come perhaps with the desire to pay some last respects. They come in anticipation of seeing yet the tomb closed and hope yet gone. Yes. But how many of you know that when God steps in, no matter what the situation looks like, there's a miracle waiting if you'll just follow Jesus? I just want to say, you got to follow Jesus to understand this thing, because Jesus will put you in a place where the moment and the hour seems dark, where the hour looks like there is no hope, but there is yet hope in him. Amen. In him. So we see here in this 28th chapter how Mary Magdalene and the other Mary had come, and they find at the doorway, after, as the Bible has described, there's been an earthquake, similar to what had taken place when Jesus was on the cross. And after the earthquake, wondering, can you imagine them wondering, what is this about? Not being able to draw conclusions, they make their way on, pressing towards the tomb. And they get there. And the Bible tells us that as they approach the tomb where Jesus had been buried, there's an angel from heaven sitting on the doorway on the stone. And if you can imagine, they have to be in state of amazement, in state of not sure what to expect. Did someone steal Jesus? Well, what may have happened in this instant? Did something happen that by our own natural minds we can conclude that this disproves Jesus? But the Bible tells us how these two women approached the tomb, and they will begin to get confused because they saw an angel who, wondering whether he had removed the stone, not understanding what had really happened. They were there in amazement, wondering what had happened. Amazed to see the rock rolled. If I can just pause for that incident, how many times have you come to a place when you found that things were something different the closer you got to Jesus? Oh, there might have been a time when there was a situation in your life, no matter what it was, where it seemed like the door had closed, but as you gave up on your own strength, gave up on your own resources, gave up on others who may have seemingly been the answer to your end. But as you began to follow Jesus, because now there's nothing else to depend on but him. And so we see them getting to a place where as they drew close to Jesus, they began to get their eyes fixed on what had occurred and forgetting what was impossible. How many of you know that there are moments and instances in our lives when we get to a situation and we don't expect the impossible, but when we hold on to the altar, when we hold on to our faith, the impossible becomes a reality.
Yes.
Anybody in here know what I'm talking about?
Amen.
So the Bible tells us how they were there, how they see the angel perched upon the stone. The Bible even goes on so much to detail for us that that the angel rather was there and as if it was like lightning, and that the angel looked like snow, perhaps as a reflection of the purity of God and his presence in the midst of the moment. God was there.
Yes.
But then as we hear the Bible speak out to us, as it was declared, he is not here.
Well,
because he's risen.
risen.
And we all hear those words echoed. He is risen. He's risen with all power in his hand.
Yes.
Risen, able to overtake even the very wiles of the devil.
Yes.
Risen and gone down even to hell and snatched the keys back and came back and proclaimed that I am the true and living God.
The living God. Yes.
Yes.
Risen.
That's Christ risen.
Yes. Yes.
Y'all all know that story.
Yes.
But what became even more exciting for me is that when the angel began to speak to them, he said unto them, these two women, that's a whole nother discussion, because in these times it wasn't even so appropriate that there would be a woman to be used to carry a message that might be believed. Another discussion. But here we have these two women who are told by the angel to go and tell others. And you just say to somebody, go tell. Go tell somebody about this story of Jesus. Go tell how he is the beginning and the end.
Yes, sir.
Go tell how he is the everlasting Father.
Yes, sir.
Go tell how he is the deliverer and the one who's able to, in the midst of the times of need, when you need a great physician, there is he. Go tell. And what the scriptures say to us, go tell and go tell quickly. Go tell this message is what the angel was saying, that you have witnessed. Go tell the story that has become very obvious in your eyes. Go and tell. Go tell and declare that Jesus is Lord. Go tell that he's risen from the dead. Go tell that there is none like him. Go tell that he is the great I am.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
He is the lily from the valley.
Yes, sir.
He is, the scriptures tell us, the bright and morning star.
Yes, sir.
He is the one who the chief elders called him out and made certain that everyone knew that he is the one who had all power in his hand.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
The Bible gives us this story in an illustration of that power. But I just want to come to say to each one of you today that there is an illustration of his power in your Think about where God's brought you from. Think about what God's done for you. Think about how when in your younger years or perhaps in your later years when you didn't know whether you were coming or going. I can remember a time in my own life when I got to a place in the point of my journey where I was ready to just shut it down. But because of God who said, it's not your time. Your hope is not in the situation that you're looking for. Your hope is in me. Somebody in here has found hope in him too. And so this story here raises the question for us is, are we telling the story? Jesus said, go down. I come today to you and say, go down. Go and tell somebody about Christ. Sometimes we wonder whether miracles are real. But the very fact that you got saved is your own miracle. Some of you found yourself in states of being where, you know, if it had been God working, nothing that the doctor could do, nothing that your mother, your father could do. No one could save you. No one could rescue from yourself. But when you got to the end of the line where you were in charge, you were at a place where God had opened up the portals of heaven in your face, giving you the opportunity to simply do one thing: profess that Jesus Christ is Lord.
Yes, yes. And
by that very act of surrendering, you and I, we became transformed. We came, as the Bible declares, when we receive him, we become new creatures.
Yes, yes.
And so, we do have something to go and tell. Tell about how Jesus saved a wretched man like me. I can make that statement. Say how Jesus delivered me from my old man. How he brought me down. How he changed my mind. How he touched my heart. How he gave me to see that my hope is not in others. My hope is not in even the resources that would seem to be apparent. But all of my hope is in Jesus. All of my hope is in Jesus.
Yes.
So today, this story, this slice, if you will, this narrative that has been lifted up from the whole of the story, helps us to realize who Jesus is. And despite what has come his way, despite his embarrassment, despite his abandonment, despite death, he lived. Despite whatever your situations are today. Hurt, broken, whatever it is, not able to forgive because of the pain inside, not able to seemingly go forward in life the way you'd like to go because there are some old baggage, some things that have entrapped you, some things that have robbed you of your hope. Yeah, you're living today, but are you really living? Jesus has risen.
Amen.
That you might live and live abundantly. to tell. Well, who am I going to tell? Sometimes we get caught up in, I'm not been called to go out into the streets, but we have our own worlds, our own, what I call, as the word describes, oikos. The oikos is the circle in which we live. The places for which, as we go through day in and day out, the circle of influence is our oikos. Maybe the people that we see day in and day out from work, the people that we happen to run into when we have a meeting once a month, once a quarter, it's the people that are part of our routine in life. The people who we have relationships with. Some of them need to hear a word that gives them hope. Some of them need to know that there is a God in the way of Jesus. And because of what he's done for you and I, some of what we have been experiencing in life is just to be able to give a testimony of what God can do.
Amen.
And you look at somebody and say, go tell.
Go tell.
Go tell your story.
Your story.
Go tell what God has done.
Amen.
And he's done and is doing and can do because he yet lives.